They keep seeing someone behind them. At first, it was just in the mirror, a fleeting glimpse of a pale face with dark, unfocused eyes. Then they started seeing the same face in the camera of their phone, but never when they turned around. At first, they thought it was just a trick of the light, a shadow figure that would appear and then vanish, always keeping the same distance between themselves and the person behind them. But no matter where they went or what they did, the figure always stayed the same distance away, always behind them, reflected in every mirror, every window, every time they looked at their phone screen. And so one day they decided to turn around and finally face the person who had been following them for so long. But when they did, there was no one there. Confused and scared, they ran out of the house, out into the street, desperate to escape whatever it was that was haunting them. But no matter how far they ran, the figure was always there, just behind them, still keeping the same distance. It was then that they realized it wasn't a person at all. It was their own reflection. As they continued to run, they could feel their own heart beating in their chest, their own blood rushing in their ears, drowning out the sound of their own footsteps on the pavement. And as they looked back, they saw that the reflection of their own face was distorted, stretched and distorted, no longer human, no longer their own. Then they stopped running. They sat down on a nearby bench and tried to calm their breathing, to steady their racing heart. And as they did, they noticed something else. The reflection was no longer keeping its distance. It was getting closer. And as it got closer, they could see more details, more features taking shape in the reflection. It was a face that was both familiar and strange, a face that was both theirs and not theirs. And as it approached, they could feel their own fear, their own terror, their own despair. It was them, but it wasn't them. It was their reflection, but it was also something else, something darker, something more sinister. It was the embodiment of their own evil, the manifestation of their own fears, the reflection that had become more real than they were. And then it reached out a hand towards them, a hand that was both their own and not their own, a hand that beckoned them closer, inviting them to join it, to become one. And as they looked into its eyes, they saw their own face staring back at them, a face that was contorted in a silent scream, a face that was trapped forever in a world of mirrors and reflections. And in that moment, they understood that they had been running from themselves all along. They had been trying to escape the person that they didn't want to be, the person that they were afraid of becoming. But now it was too late. Now the reflection had become real. Now the monster that they had created inside of themselves had escaped, and there was no turning back. So they reached out a hand towards the reflection, towards themselves, and as their fingers touched, as their souls merged, they felt a sense of peace, a sense of release, a sense of finality. For in that moment, they were no longer two separate entities, the real and the reflected. They were one being, one entity, one soul, neither good nor evil, neither human nor monster, just one. They always felt a bit uneasy about the old Victorian house they'd inherited from their grandmother. It wasn't the type of place where people were supposed to live anymore. It was just too big, too dark, too many rooms. But it was their grandmother's last wish that they stay there until she died. So they did. One day, while unpacking boxes in the attic, they found an old vanity mirror, one of those big ones with the silver frames and a small table underneath it. It was so heavy that it took two people to carry it down the stairs and prop it up against the wall in the hallway. As soon as they saw themselves reflected in the glass, they knew something was wrong. Behind them was not the dark hallway they had just come from, but another identical hallway stretching into the infinite distance. Down that hallway, they could see the faint outline of a woman standing at the end, almost like a heat haze on the hottest summer day. At first, they thought it was just a trick of the light, or maybe some damage to the glass. But then they went back to the attic to bring the mirror inside their bedroom. And no matter where they placed it, the hallway was always there, always stretching into the distance. And the woman was always there too, just at the end of it, never getting any closer. Then they started seeing her in other mirrors around the house, always behind them, always watching. The bathroom mirror, the dressing room mirror, even the iPhone camera. When they looked at the photos later, they could see her face clearly. She was beautiful, elegant, like an old Hollywood starlet. And yet, there was something unsettling about her, like a bad premonition or a half-forgotten nightmare. They tried to convince themselves that it didn't mean anything, that it was just a trick of the light or some damage to the glass. But then, one day they came home from the grocery store and found the woman waiting for them in the hall mirror. She was no longer just a faint outline but a solid, clear image, like she was really standing there in front of them. And then she began to move. She took a step toward them, then another, and they could hear the soft click of her heels on the hardwood floor. They screamed and ran away, hiding in the bedroom closet until they were sure she was gone. That's when they checked the locks on the doors and found that all the keys were gone. They were trapped in their own house with a ghost. They didn't know what to do. They couldn't leave. They were trapped with a ghost. Then they had an idea. Maybe if they could find another mirror, they could trap the ghost inside that instead. So they searched the house until they found an old vanity set in the basement, complete with a large mirror. Carefully, they lured the ghost toward it, hiding behind furniture and using towels to peek around corners. Finally, when they were sure it was close enough, they made a run for it, jumping out from behind the dresser and screaming at the top of their lungs. The ghost screamed too, a long, drawn-out wail that echoed through the empty rooms. Then it vanished. They were free. Or so they thought, because soon she was back, walking toward them down the hallway, except now she was no longer a ghost. She was flesh and blood. Well, mostly flesh and blood. Her skin was unnaturally pale, almost translucent, and her eyes were large and black, like a bottomless pit. She kept walking toward them, and they could see the muscles in her arms and legs coiling and flexing like a snake getting ready to strike. Then she pounced. They screamed as she knocked them to the ground, her sharp nails digging into their flesh. But as she leaned in close to finish them off, they noticed something strange. Her eyes were no longer black, but a vibrant, startling green, and they could see the flicker of amusement dancing in their depths. "Who are you?" they managed to choke out. "Don't you recognize me?" she asked, her voice a low, throaty purr. "It's me. We have so much to talk about." The last thing they remembered was the searing pain of her teeth sinking into their neck, and then everything went black. Now, whenever the mailman delivers a new package to the house, the neighbors are always careful not to open it until the coast is clear. Because sometimes a package isn't just a package. Sometimes it's something much, much worse.